So, what I've really come to learn in the past few years of diving deep into the journey of yoga as well as Ayurveda is that we're always evolving. You're here to evolve, which means you're here to shed layers. You're here to let go of those things that limit you and hold you back. And we can see this in the cycles of breath, in the cycles of day and night and the cycles of the seasons. For instance, the exhale is a natural release, a natural letting go in the cycle of life, because if we didn't exhale, there would be no space to inhale. And if there was no night, there'd be no chance to let go and rest in order to be rejuvenated for the day. And if we failed to have that fall into winter season where nature is naturally shedding and letting go and moving towards a sense of hibernation, there would be no fertilization and germination for spring and for the peak of summer. So, as a part of our growth, our evolution, which is what you're here to do, what I'm here to do, we have to let go. But this can be really, really hard. And I think we hear this idea of releasing and shedding layers and letting go a lot in the spiritual community and in regards to the spiritual journey, as well as in the world of mental health. When we look at letting go of beliefs and thoughts and trauma and narratives that we get stuck in. But what I've come to find is that there are points in our cycles of release and shedding that are harder than others, and where that letting go feels really challenging, really clunky, really frictiony, and it's not always as easy as saying, I let go, or I'm going to let go, I'm going to release this, because there's a process there, and there's attention that we have to give to that process and a tending to. So if you are experiencing that or have, you're not alone. It's hard to let go. It's actually a dying, if you will, a dying of an old way of being, a dying of a maybe a pattern or narrative we've been stuck in, or a habit we've been stuck in. And so it's likely we'll run up against resistance. And the more deep seated and the longer we've held on to whatever it is that we're shedding, the more likely the resistance is going to show up and be a bit more agitating and disturbing, because we're really working on some deep seated shit. And it's hard work. So I wanted to share with you some practical ways to move through this process of shedding layers and release as a part of your evolution and as a part of your growth, so that you have some tools in your tool bag and you don't get stuck. Because I think what happens when we do hit resistance and we do hit that disturbance, and when it's really strong and overwhelming, it can be easy to avoid that part of letting go, kind of just say no, not doing this is too uncomfortable, or feel discouraged and want to give up and kind of get stuck in that same cycle. And life will keep inviting us to let go of this, let go of this, let go of this. We might be stuck on rerun for quite some time. And that's okay, it's not a bad thing, but there are some things you can do to support you in moving through this process with more ease, more grace, and hopefully not getting stuck for as long. So I just want to start off and say that the first thing that is so important is compassion. Compassion towards yourself, first and foremost, kindness, gentleness, understanding, non-judgment, non-criticism for those parts that feel disturbed, that feel really uncomfortable. So a compassion practice you can do is bring your right hand to your heart And close your eyes and take a few calm, deep breaths, sending yourself compassion and love, and taking a moment to honor your human journey, this journey of evolution that is not always easy. If we think about growing pains physically when we're growing, those growing pains can express also when we're growing mentally, emotionally, energetically, spiritually. So compassion for yourself, because you are human and you are meant to evolve. And that's a beautiful thing. So starting there, and then from that place of compassion, getting clear on what needs to be released, what needs to be shed at this time. And we can do this through the yoga practice of self-inquiry, or the niyama of svadhyaya, which is one of the teachings and one of the principles in Kriya Yoga. So ask yourself, and you might journal this or speak it aloud, what wants to be seen, what wants to be heard, what wants to be acknowledged right now. And if you're not sure, look at where you're brushing up against resistance. Where is there resistance? Where are you holding yourself back? And once you've gotten clear on these things, put your right hand back over your heart into the thing or things that you're brushing up against, that hold you back, that want to be seen, heard, and released. Say, thank you, I see you, I love you. It's important that we acknowledge these aspects and not judge them. It would be like judging somebody who's already hurting, who's already struggling, and then continuing to add to that harshness if we judge and criticize. So don't do that. Thank you. I see you. I love you. I no longer need you. In Ayurveda, there's this is the next thing, the third thing. So there's about 7 things I'm going to offer you. First is compassion. Second is self-inquiry. Third is tending to the flow of Apanavayu. Apanavayu is the down and out flow that governs our excretory organs, menses, birthing. So we can really see it as this down and out, this releasing motion that is necessary for life. And consider if you continuously ate your meals or within your regular schedule, but you never defecated, you never released, how full and bloated and uncomfortable you would feel. So it's really important that we tend to this down and out flow when we're releasing. And we can do this by inviting in movement to the lower half of the body, in particular the pelvic bowl, the inner groin, the legs. So walking is actually just a very great way to do this. Having a regular walking practice, whether it's 10 to 20 minutes. 20 minutes, I think, is a good time if you don't have a lot of time to dedicate 20 minutes of your day to a walk, to start moving that lower body, start nurturing that flow in the lower body to release. In yoga asana practice, hip openers, hip strengtheners, such as lizard pose, pigeon pose, your warrior poses, bound angle, so on and so forth. There's some different ideas there. And then ultimately what's going to continue to direct Apanavayu down and out is feeling grounded and staying grounded. So if you feel scattered, if you don't feel grounded, then go put your feet in the earth, slow down, create space in your schedule, get grounded. That directs the flow down. Versus if we're up here, super in our mind, super scattered in the mind, the flow is going more up, and we might have an aggravation of Udana Vayu, the upward flow. And the last thing is tending to digestion. If digestion is disrupted, the last part of digestion, which is the down and out when we release that which we um, didn't need after the digestion process is over, if that gets aggravated or restricted or hindered in any way because we're not eating appropriate foods or we're not eating consistently or we um, have some kind of imbalance in the digestive part of our health, then that flow can become blocked. So wholesome foods, fresh vegetables, grains, fruits, legumes, seeds, eating consistently. So if you eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner, having a consistent schedule, which helps keep um, a steady rhythm to the digestion. So it helps regulate upon a value down and out. Not having a huge dinner, so lunch being the biggest meal of the day, dinner being fairly light. If you have breakfast, moderate. Eating seasonal foods that are in season, they typically tend to be what is nourishing or balancing because the earth knows what to give us for each season. And eat dosha appropriate foods, so your dosha constitution in Ayurveda. If you don't know what that is, you can go to Banyan Botanicals and they have a free online quiz, and it's pretty thorough. Of course, online quizzes are based on algorithms, so it's not as accurate as working with a practitioner. So you might start there and look at some of the recommendations for your dosha based on what your results are. If you would like further insight into that, I do work with individuals in Ayurveda Yoga therapy where we look at the constitution, look at food recommendations that are supportive. So, no, that is an option, but you do want to tend to your digestion. And kind of going off that, and I touched on this a little bit in the digestion, is giving yourself space. So, it's a part of staying grounded, also, so you have the space to process and release. In Ayurveda, it's important for digestion to stay strong that we eat at a meal about to the point where we're 1/3 full. So the stomach is ideally 1/3 full of food, 1/3 full of water, and then 1/3 empty. And that empty space is so there's space to churn and process. And if not, that process becomes affected in a negative way because there's not enough space for the food to be digested. And same for when we're processing, digesting, in this releasing and shedding of layers, we need the space to have compassion for ourselves, to self-inquire, to sit down and eat wholesome meals. So give yourself space. Simplicity. So don't overbook yourself when you're in the process of release. Give yourself permission to simplify your schedule, to simplify foods. So crazy complex meals and processed foods for some time, lean towards simple foods, simple diets, simple schedule. You might even clean out your closet or your kitchen, or if you have an at-home office or space where you work, simplify that. Simplify your life. Drink plenty of water. Lots of water. Water is purifying, and I love drinking water and imagining it rinsing over my system and just rinsing over the channels and the internal world, rinsing away whatever is wanting to be shed. Also, same thing you can imagine when you shower. Imagine the shower water rinsing over you and cleansing. Take a bath and go to a body of water, a river, a lake. Spend some time near water and make sure you're well hydrated. And the last thing is to connect with faith and nurture faith. Faith is like a bolster that will ultimately lift us up when we feel like life is weighing down on us, this shedding of layers that we're moving through, this transformation, this letting go that we're moving through. When it weighs heavy and feels like too much, come back to your faith. And so this may mean that you get clear on what you have faith in, if you don't already. And like a muscle, when we come back to faith, when we use it and remember it and practice it, especially in our challenges and hardships, we strengthen it like a muscle. And this is important when it comes to the yoga path, which is a very spiritual path, because it's not always easy evolving and stepping more fully into who we are when we've been so comfortable and so identified with limited ways of being and narratives and beliefs we've held on to for a long time. Letting that go isn't easy. And so having faith in this higher sense of self or spirit or divine or God or source, whatever you want to call it, and nurturing that faith by prayer or through meditation or through journaling or tuning in and asking for guidance from that part of us. Doing that is so important to help us stay connected to that faith when we are having a hard time and when the shedding feels like a lot. So these are some good tools to get started with. And if you feel like you don't have support in this or you need further support, um, I've created 45-minute virtual sessions that are called Life is Medicine. And I do truly believe our life can be medicine in all of its fluctuations. It's just tapping back into clarity through meditation, hashing out what's going on with somebody and maybe getting a different perspective, and taking some time to see what the inner teacher, the inner guide wants to share with us. So if you feel like you need support and you want to hop on a 45-minute virtual call and talk it out and meditate together and commune with your inner guide for support, you can go to my website under private offerings and go down to the third offering, which is your Life is Medicine session. And I'm happy to be of support in that way. Otherwise, these 7 things are a great starting point. And to recap that for you: compassion, self-inquiry, supporting Apanavayu, that down and out flow, giving yourself space, simplicity, plenty of water, and reconnecting and nurturing with your faith. So let me know how that goes, if it landed, and if not, anything that didn't resonate, let it go. All right, until next time.